Welcome to Bruce Hurwitz Presents Meet the Experts. I'm your host, Bruce Hurwitz of Hurwitz Strategic Staffing. You can find us on the web at hsstaffing.com. I hope you consider us for all your staffing, career counseling, and professional writing needs. I am delighted to be joined today by Lord Milan Oiseau. We will be discussing the power of perseverance. Meet the Experts is sponsored by P&K CPAs. P&K is a full-service accounting firm. They provide accounting and consulting services to businesses ranging from startups to small and mid-cap companies to nonprofits, as well as high-net-worth individuals. Contact them today for a free consultation at info@pk-cpas.com or call them at 973-882-8810. They will be happy to be of service. Milan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Bruce.
It's a pleasure having you. Please take a moment or two to introduce yourself to our viewers.
Well, long before I was Lord Milan, I was just Milan, the kid that grew up in the South in North Carolina, or just north of North Carolina, and in a military family. And with that, in the 80s, it came a lot of twists and turns being from a biracial family. And I didn't always, love and appreciate that difference. But thankfully, as I got older, and it wasn't even subsequently until I broke my neck at 17 that I actually started to love and appreciate and really examine who I am, who my family is, and really start to hone in on those details that I decide and that I believe in for my own life. And since then, it's catapulted me into the realm of fraternity and teacher and professor and all these things, business owner now. And what I do really is I'm a superhero coach these days. And I practice the DAY1 mindset, the mindset techniques and strategies that I learned and absorbed and created on my own, really first and foremost to solve my own problems. And then now for the last few years, I've been able to translate that to other people to create their own miracles and to prove that, you're powerful than your circumstance.
Since you mentioned it, I got to ask, where did the name Lord come from?
Well, Lord is actually a title that I got when we did some DNA stuff and records history for my dad's side of the family. He grew up in and out of an orphanage, so we didn't really know much about his lineage in that way. And after we did the records test, we found out that his mom was, her bloodline was lords and ladies in England for about 400 years. And castle and everything, Greeno, crest right there on it. And my other uncles didn't have any sons, so my brother and I are, unofficially lords of the manor. So I started using Lord Milan up there to, add a little bit of fanciness to my world.
Okay. So it would be my Lord.
Yes.
All right. Well, we'll keep it informal, and you don't have to call me doctor, and I won't call you my Lord.
Sounds good.
What's perseverance?
Perseverance, I think, first and foremost, is a choice. It's the choice to do it one more time and the choice to do it for one more day. And I really believe that the Bible is a practical manual in that it explains a lot of things like perseverance, and that there's a lot of benefits to it when you choose to keep going. I used to look at it really as, the will or grit, but I've come to realize too that it's a lot more than that. It's a willingness that goes along and just seeing yourself as valuable enough to keep going. And, thankfully, I didn't give up on year 11 because it took me 18 years to start walking again. And, with that perseverance, I've learned so much more about myself of growth and how I can really dictate my world because I can dictate what I choose to believe about it. And I think perseverance is a choice there.
What's the difference between perseverance and being stubborn?
I think perseverance has a better reason attached to it, maybe.
Okay.
I think it might start with a bit of stubbornness because I admit that I was a big athlete when my injury happened, and the teenage stubbornness of like I'm invincible and I'll beat this, kind of thing. When they told me I'd never have any feeling or movement ever again, and I was just like, no, No. I think that bit of stubbornness is a good jumping off point, but perseverance is really attached to reasons to keep going.
Okay. And that's a good segue to my next question. As I'm sure you are aware, Einstein said something to the effect that the definition of insanity is repeating something over and over again and expecting a different result.
Right.
So when do you pull the plug on perseverance?
Well, I think, perseverance, like it's attached to learning and not just knowledge. It's learning is really looking at the situation. It might be the same, but you have new knowledge and something you can do about it. And perseverance really, I think that's an individual choice of when to pull the plug. Like I 3-time entrepreneur, my first business failed. After I gave it a couple years run, I dumped a lot of money and time and effort into it. But it just wasn't, progressing essentially. But I think, like the bigger the story, the more reasons that you have, the more that you can persevere. And that's up to you when you decide when that breaking point is, because sometimes it is about letting go of okay, so that you can have, oh yeah, later on.
Now, I work with some people who they want to be polite, technologically challenged.
Okay.
And I have to, I'm sure you probably are guilty of this as well. We all are. You're showing somebody how to do something, and you've done it a million times yourself, and you go through it 1, 2, 3 too fast, and they can't follow because you went too quickly. So then you have to go back, go step by step by step, and then you have to repeat it again, step by step by step. And when it's a child, you're more patient. Yeah. When it's an adult, listen, pay attention. This isn't brain surgery. It's just how to use Zoom, for example.
Yeah.
Frustration can come into play and you just give up. You're never gonna. Did you ever see the movie City Slickers?
Yes.
You remember the scene where one of them is trying to explain to the other how to record something on a VHS player, and finally the third one says to he'll never get it. The cows know how to do a recording. He doesn't know how to do a recording. He'll never know how to do a recording. And you just give up.
Yeah.
How do you keep yourself from giving up? How do you stop yourself from giving up?
Well, one of the things that I've learned is that reluctance happens to everybody. And the desire to give up happens to everybody. It's going to happen. There's whether you're, a prophet, a priest, a soldier, or a teacher, the idea of giving up is going to show up. And I think in that moment, it goes back to your motivation, your reason to act in the first place. And if your reason is bigger than the challenge, then I think it's a lot harder to give up. If you're working hard and you're tired, this and that, and you're doing it and thinking, man, I don't really want to do this, but you come home and then you see your 2 young kids and you're thinking, well, they need me. Okay, that's a good enough reason. And sometimes the smallest reason is, well, I think giving up would make my story suck. I just wouldn't feel good about that, And there were definitely times where that was my only reason to keep going, was that if I quit now, I don't have anything to show for it. Or if I quit now, I'll be disappointed in me. And if I quit now, then, I won't do the things that I want to do, even though other people may not know about it. I know. And I'm just not willing to do that. And I read, there's a book, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And the number one regret is, I wish I lived a life authentic to me. And I think, in order to live a life authentic to you, you have to be able to give yourself the reasons to keep going, at least just for one more day.
So basically what I'm hearing you say is in order to persevere, you have to, I hate to use sports analogies, but to keep your eye on the prize, to be goal oriented.
Right.
And you said something about your children. I don't know if you were being literal, that you were seeing your own children
Right.
or not, but okay. So that's pretty easy. My children need their father to be able to walk.
Yeah.
I am going to go outside and play catch with my children. That's my goal. And then if you don't persevere, you're letting your children down first, and you're letting yourself down. Now, there comes a time, it's only natural, when you've had a bad day. I'm not going to compare anything that I've been through to what you went through, but everybody has a bad day, and you just want to say, the heck with it. It's not worth it. And then you think about your goal. When you have that goal, how important is it for the goal to be simple? I want to be able to play ball with my children. I want to be able to walk my daughter down the aisle. Those are simple. I want to have a successful business. That's not so simple, because that's not only dependent upon you. So how does the idea of perseverance change when the goal becomes complicated?
Well, I think it becomes, like you said, it's not just up to me. And a reminder that, there's going to be times where things need to be delegated to other people. And the idea of like not feeling like it is going to happen. And rather than trying to, quote unquote, be happy all the time and assume that those feelings don't come, I think just accepting that those feelings do come, of not wanting to do it. And it is complicated. And the solution may be, it's not going to happen in the same instance as it would if I just, came home and started playing catch with my son. It's not that simple. And understanding that it doesn't have to be simple or easy for it to be doable has really given me so much more out of my own story. And looking at it too is like, it's easy to look at things from your personal perspective. And personal perception, rather. It's another thing to look at it from a higher perspective of what are we really doing here? And, I ask my clients that too, whenever they get bombarded with a tricky situation, a new job or something outside themselves that seems really big, is, what are you really doing? Oh, what I'm doing is I'm motivating these people so that we can get this project done. Okay, why? Oh, because it means this and it'll be that done, but it's really stressful. Okay, but why? Well, it's because I'm not sure about all these people. I'm just like, well, why? Well, because I hired the wrong people. I'm just like, okay, now we're getting somewhere. And if you looking at your story, your life as that story, then you can go back and like, oh, well, chapter 4 was kind of crazy. All right, well, that gave me some insights here or there, and just purposely examine things when you do feel overwhelmed, so that next time, the overwhelm and the complications don't seem so big, because you can almost see them coming after a while.
When you started to answer, I wrote down not just up to you and the word team. And then you said what you said about the example of the client who hired the wrong people. Of course, if he had come to me, I would have found him the right people, but that's a different matter. We won't talk about that. I've never done a self-promotion, and I'm not going to start now. How do you choose the people you need on your team to help you to reach the goal so that you won't lose confidence and you'll continue to persevere?
Well, I think, especially if it's up to you to do the hiring and the staffing, or, to lead the project, you got to have it pretty well defined by yourself. You know, you got to know what gaps that you need filled so that you can know what type of person needs to fill those gaps. And, you know, certain qualities, like the more that you're around people, the easier it is to read people and to be able to understand what they can bring to the table. Sometimes you're dead wrong, but I think the more often that you listen to your own intuition and trust yourself, the better you'll be. And, you know, there's oftentimes that I can trace back something going one way or the other based on my feeling and my intuition of the subject at the time. And, you know, too, being with the whole, like, it's not all up to me. I really believe that I'm co-creating my life with a higher power. So, hey, let me knock on that door and get a bit of input here. You know, and consciously, I think, you know, doing that within my own story of, you know, I open up the way for the right person in the right time, you know, and I'm willing to be guided and just like allow my intuition to fill in some of those gaps for me, because I know sometimes like my own reasoning mind is not going to give me the answers. If I could figure it all out, I would have done it already, kind of thing. But being open to allowing those answers to flood in, and maybe they're not flooding in from me.
Let me give you two examples of identical situations with two totally different clients, both of whom wanted to hire a salesperson, actually a director. They didn't have a team yet, but they wanted to hire the director. And if the director was successful, then they would be able to build up their team. In both cases, I said to the client, understand, this person is not going to get you a single client for at least 6 months, and it may even take 12 months. And that's par for the course. This is a brand new venture. He's got to make contacts. The contacts that they have are coming from a different industry. You have to be willing to foot the bill for a year without getting any revenue. They're going to want to try different things. You have to be open to them. They all said, yes, we understand, fine. 6 months later, in both cases, they fired the director because he hadn't brought in any business. I couldn't convince the owner. And in both cases, I was working with the equivalent of a COO who was on my side, if you will, couldn't convince the boss. The boss said, no money is coming in. Money is only going out. It's not worth it. Now, if they had waited a few more months, money would have started to come in and they would have come out ahead and been able to grow their business. When you are focused on only one metric, in this case, revenue, and you don't meet your immediate goal, what would you have advised me to do differently to get the person to think perhaps about different metrics? Because both of them were having successes, just not bringing in money.
Right. Yeah, and I would try to look at it more of that holistic approach of, okay, this is down, but what else is happening? What else is working in our favor? And I think sometimes looking at the opposite, people can understand it more. Like, all right, well, if we fire this guy, then we start from scratch, then where are we? Then what? Then what? We still are out of all that. Now we're out of all that time, and we're starting over, and we're hoping, you know, that those other metrics add up. Or, you know, we stick it out and we go the rest of the way. Like you said, you can't convince people, but I one of the things that I found in my coaching is how fast can I get them to duh? It's like to look at it as like, oh, duh,
I
you
like
know,
that.
about the situation, because like that bridges that gap to be like, oh, well, right. Yeah, that makes sense. Like if they can agree with something small, then like you can start bringing them in to feel better and to get to that like that duh moment. You know, if we fire this guy and this and that, and like, remember, I told you it's 6 to 12 months. We know it's not 6.
Yeah.
Right. So that means, hey, we're learning something, you know, and look at all these other metrics. These relationships are building, and we only need one of these, you know, these staff meetings to go really well for us to just start raking it in. And it's like, okay. It's like, all right, and go that route. And sometimes even crazy things. Hey, if it doesn't work out in 6 more months, I'll shave my beard, and then lighten the mood a little bit. But yeah, getting them to like that moment of duh, of like, oh well, duh, yeah, that'll just put us back to square one. I don't want to do that.
That'd be a great title for a book, Getting to the.
Yeah. Well, you had a good one too, about hookers. I was like,
Oh, yeah.
hooker,
For those who do not know, Milan is referring to a book called A Hooker's Guide to Getting a Job, which is stories based on sessions with career counseling clients. And I'm laughing because I was involved with a class action lawsuit, and I knew they were going to pull something during a deposition. I knew the lawyer was going to pull something because she always called me Dr. Hurwitz. Every question was Dr. Hurwitz, blah, blah, blah. So I knew something was coming, and she said to me, now, let's discuss morals, because the lawsuit was about business practices. And she said, you've got a book called Hookers. And I said, no, it's called A Hooker's Guide to Getting a Job. I think that's the title. And it was a long time ago. And she said, well, weren't you ever embarrassed? I said, no, because most people just didn't read the title. They also read the explanation on the back cover, so they know what it's about. But I was concerned one time. I was at a career fair, and a priest and two nuns were coming towards the table. And I had the book on a stand. People were coming from the left, so it was on the right. And the priest saw it, and he walked over. He had a smile on his face, and he picked it up, and he read what it was about, and he goes, that's hysterical. And I said, Father, I would be happy to give you a copy if I had one, but I don't. I just have the display copy. And he said, that's fine. And we shook hands, had a quick conversation. And when he walked away, the nuns looked at me and said, the man has a devilish sense of humor. So, but anyways, that is definitely not our topic. We were just about at the end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up your contact information. I did want to ask you one thing that I forgot. What is this Day One Mindset?
Day One Mindset is really the strategy that I use to go from a depressed teenager to a successful entrepreneur. And it's 5 pillars that anyone can do. And I named it Day One Mindset because you can do it today. And after breaking my neck and being in the hospital for 6 months with no feeling, I needed something that was doable. And day one is doable because it focuses on your own thoughts, your own words, and your own actions. And it really allows anyone that uses it to tell themselves and convince themselves rather of a better story, and then watch that story come to fruition. It's weird that it happens like that all the time, but I've seen people double their salaries. I've seen people, create relationships, become bestsellers, all within, just a few months of utilizing it. So it's really like just an ultimate strategy to get the most out of yourself. And I remind people that, wherever you are, you didn't get there all at once. You got there a drop at a time. And, when you treat today like it matters, then it really does. And really our entire life is just a succession of days. Just when you think tomorrow is going to come, it turns into today. So you really only have today over and over. And when you treat it like it matters and it's a part of a bigger story, then it's amazing what happens.
I'm glad I remembered to ask. I thank you for that. I thank you for coming on. Before I let you go, as I said, I'm going to put up your contact information. But I would like you to answer one final question. Is there anything that I have not asked that you wish I had asked? And if I had asked it, what would you have said?
Well, most people ask about, the whole superhero thing.
The whole,
As I call myself a superhero coach.
oh,
And, most people are saying, well, what's that about? And jokingly about the superpowers. But, really, if you had asked that, I would ask you back, what things come to mind when you hear the word superhero?
you're asking
And I'm asking,
fiction.
okay,
Fiction's the first thing that comes to mind. A dream, not as in sleeping, but as in a desire to be
yeah,
able to do something that you are not able to do and probably would never be able to do.
right.
And also the sidekick. Batman would not be Batman without Robin. And
Yeah.
I can't think of anything else.
Well, I think that's fantastic because a lot of, the reason I call it superhero training and the superhero training program is just that. Superheroes are able to operate above their capacity. They trust the person to their left and to their right because they know they're more powerful with it. And they're able to see things that normal people can't see, and they can do things that normal people can't do. And what I end up teaching my clients with all that is that they too can operate way above their capacity, no matter what that capacity already is, and can see things and do things and have those abilities that they never thought was possible. But I guarantee we were all born with. You're just not sure how to activate them yet. And you don't need a crazy origin story like breaking your neck in order to get those powers to come out or get stung by a radioactive spider or anything. But it is all about taking the time to change your story around and then really align your thoughts, words, and actions in any direction that you choose.
Come to think of it, Spider-Man doesn't have a sidekick, does he?
No, but he does consult with a lot of people.
That's true.
And, yeah.
That's true. Milan, thank you so much for coming on. It has been inspirational, and I'm sure all of our viewers appreciate it.
Awesome. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I'm Bruce Hurwitz. Thank you for watching, and as always, please stay focused on success.